Hello there!
Charly Bliss are a grunge pop turned power pop quartet from Brooklyn, New York. They've released 3 albums to date: Guppy, Young Enough, and just a few days ago, Forever, their first album in half a decade. Now, I love Charly Bliss. I always have since their debut in 2017, so I'm going to be a little bit more than just a bit biased here, but I've always found that the band possessed a preternatural ability in one area in particular. I mean, they're great for dozens of reasons, but specifically, their songs are absurdly catchy. And I don't mean like one song out of every album, or even a few, but almost every single one of their songs is catchy beyond belief. So naturally, I wanted to figure out why. So I started studying piano when I was 7, then went to conservatory and got 3 separate degrees in classical music, so I can sit here today and break down why Charly Bliss are so magical. I'm gonna take a look at one song in particular off of their latest album, the second track, Calling You Out, and use it as a case study. I chose this song because it's so catchy that I've been listening to it, like, without exaggeration, 50 times a day. And also because it features many facets that Charly Bliss incorporate into much of their music. The song is only 3 minutes long, so I'd advise you to just go listen to it. I'll be here. I can wait. Okay, so, immediate impressions. For me, the main thing that stuck out is that it's quite repetitive. And I don't mean this in a derogatory sense, and we'll touch back on this later. The same lyrics and the same melodies seem to be continually employed throughout the song, despite it not being very long. As well, the song just feels simple. And again, I don't mean this in any derogatory sense. And again, we'll circle back on this later. The song doesn't feature any weird or wild digressions from what we really expect in a pop song. So let's break that down a little bit more theoretically. What structurally makes up a pop song? There's 6 main components. You have the intro, you have the verse, you have the pre-chorus, the chorus, you have a bridge, and then you have an outro. The intro is exactly what the name implies. It's an introduction to the song. And I'm going to veer a little bit away from academic language and say that the objective of the intro is to draw the listener in and to set the vibe of the track. Some intros are so iconic that you can just hear a second of them and you know exactly what song is playing. The intro then and pretty quickly transitions into the first verse of the song. I say the first verse because almost every pop song features 2, maybe 3 verses. You can think of the verse as the narratively driven part of the track. Every verse features the same melody, that is the same musical notes being sung, but each verse is set to different text or different lyrics. Because of this, you can structure a linear story throughout the length of the track by employing several different verses. At the close of the verse, we then move on to the pre-chorus and the chorus, which I'll sometimes refer to in combination as the chorus section, or collectively as just chorus, because you of course can't have a pre-chorus without the chorus immediately following it, and also because I'm lazy. The chorus is the real heart of the pop song because they're the sections which feature the same verbatim musical and lyrical content. Every time the pre-chorus and chorus appear, they are for the most part unchanged. As such, you want the message or the theme of the song to feature in the chorus section. And it better be a pretty damn good chorus because the listener is going to hear the same chorus 2 or 3 times before the song is over. Now, it's not 100% necessary to have a pre-chorus, and many pop songs don't feature one. Its purpose is to prepare the listener for this chorus section. It sets up anticipation for what is, hopefully, a very catchy and repeated section of music. And it also lets the listener know that we're moving away from the verse itself, usually via a change of melody or musical texture. The song will then move to another verse, then another pre-chorus and chorus, and this pattern can repeat for however many verses that you want to include in your song. Verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus, verse, pre-chorus, chorus. In general, if you're writing a pop song and you want it to be as accessible as possible, you don't want the song to stretch on for a huge length of time. You know, it's not going to be radio friendly, rapidly dropping attention spans, yada yada yada. So you'll typically find 2, sometimes 3 verse-chorus combos in a song. It's also not a hard and fast rule, but typically speaking, the chorus section is usually a wee bit shorter than the verse, for the simple reason that as it's usually repeated exactly, the song would feel simply too repetitive if we had to hear a lengthier chunk of it over and over and over again. When you decide that you finally want your song to conclude, you'll find the bridge section. This is another section which pretty much means what its title implies. It's a connecting section, usually offering contrasting musical material. Oftentimes new chords are used, new harmonies, new melodies, new lyrical content. The bridge typically leads up to the final inclusion of the chorus, and ideally it sets up this final chorus as the big climax of the song. When the listener hears a bridge, they know that one final and most impactful instance of the chorus is about to play. It's also not a requirement, but much of the time, the final chorus is played with heightened instrumentation, or just more instruments, louder instrumentation, a more impassioned vocal performance, and even the key itself can change, just to really drive home the cake and fireworks. Then you have the outro, or the coda, which is just a fancy musical term that it means outro. Not every song has one, and there's not much to say here really about it. It means exactly what you think it means. It's the denouement of the song, and it's also the last chance that the songwriter has to leave the listener feeling a certain way. I'm trying to incorporate more shallots into my diet. They seem just like a funkier version of the darker onion varieties. Novicile. Let's switch now back to talking about Charly Bliss. I'm going to break down their song Calling You Out in two chunks. First, structurally, and second, melodically. So firstly, let's take a look at how Charly Bliss adapts this typical pop song structure in the track itself. Here's a color-coded breakdown of the structure of the song. I also have to apologize for the atrocious color scheme of this breakdown. Microsoft Word's default highlighting colors are atrocious, and I can't be bothered to change them, so deal with them as I have dealt with them. As you can see, almost the entirety of the song is chorus. I mean, verse 2 lasts all of 15 seconds. And even the bridge is just a reworking of the pre-chorus itself. It could arguably even be classified as an expanded pre-chorus. I could have used the same color for the bridge as the chorus sections. So how the hell does the song function if it's pretty much the same chunks of music played over and over? How does this aspect contribute to making it such an earworm? Why can't I stop listening to it? Please help me. It's beginning to be a problem. It's like the only song I've listened to for like the past 3 days. To address the first question, the song still functions and is still effective because even if the same melodic material and lyrics appear and reappear throughout the track, the way this melody is played, or rather the music that surrounds this melody, constantly evolves. At the start of the song, the instrumentation is quite sparse. There's just a bass and some drums. Then, as the track progresses, we hear a gradual introduction and expansion of synthesizers and guitars. The longer the song continues, the more involved and complex the instrumentation, giving the whole thing a sensation of gradually ramping up drama and tension. Frontwoman Eva Hendrix's vocals too ramp up. There's a gulf of distance between the first utterance of the chorus and the final one. Moreover, she even sings the final pre-chorus a whole octave higher than when she first sings it. An octave higher means the interval between one... An octave higher means the interval between one musical pitch and another musical pitch with double its frequency, or moving from one note to another note above it with the same name, like C to C, or Do to Do, or B to B. Whoop! As a result, the song never feels stagnant. Despite a repetition of melodic and lyrical content, the music swirling around it never ceases evolving. Okay, so it works, structurally speaking, as a song, but how does this structure contribute to it being so catchy, so fun to listen to? To answer this, we have to turn to a bit of neuroscience and psychology. The science of how and why we enjoy listening to music is still developing, but we are pretty sure of one thing, the fact that human beings love patterns. They love discovering patterns, they love anticipating the next iteration of the pattern, and they love experiencing said next iteration. This is the same reason why we, or especially young children, love watching the same movies over and over again. We already know what will happen, but the anticipation of what will happen combined with our actually witnessing what we know will happen, gives us these dopamine goody-goody feelings. I realize I'm vastly simplifying, and in an effort to keep this video below 40 minutes, I'm gonna unfortunately continue to do so. We use this same phenomenon in music composition, not only in pop music, but in virtually every music genre out there. You can think as a typified example of the infamous drop, which occurs in electronic dance music. The DJ or producer will gradually escalate tension and expectation of this drop to a maximal degree until the crowd can barely contain themselves, and when the drop does happen, the crowd colloquially goes wild. In pop music, the equivalent of this drop is the chorus, which, incidentally, the pre-chorus sets up anticipation for. Once the listener realizes that the verse is coming to a close, they immediately begin anticipating the chorus itself, and when the chorus hits, again, big brain, dopamine, goody-good feelings.
Whatever makes it break, but I got it where I want it now.
This cycle repeats throughout the length of a song, and the biggest payoff of this occurs after the bridge with that final and most climactic chorus. With most pop songs, then, the verse is therefore necessary, not only to string along a narrative to the song itself, but to give the listener breaks. Obviously, the song can't be all chorus, otherwise it wouldn't feel like the chorus is some kind of big payoff event. The song just becomes stagnant. This naturally begs the question, how much of a refractory period does the listener need in between the climaxes, which are the choruses? Most bands would say, you need a full verse. Charly Bliss, on the other hand, say, yeah, but do you really need one? By continually varying how this chorus section is played in Calling You Out, Charly Bliss never actually repeat any section of music one-to-one. Throughout the 3 minutes of its runtime, with its continually increasing instrumentation and texture and tension, the band essentially flips this subconscious question of, when will the verse end, so I can hear the chorus again, to, what will the chorus sound this time around? God in heaven, I talk a lot with my hands. I'm gonna try sitting on them for this next bit. In essence, Charly Bliss has found a way to circumvent the need for verses to split up the choruses themselves, by having the choruses themselves be this chunk of music with the same melody, though constantly in flux, increasing in intensity every time we hear it. The net effect is that we receive that dopamine payoff without much downtime necessary in between, over and over and over again throughout the entirety of the song, and we continue to crave it because every time we hear the chorus, it gets increasingly emotionally intense. This isn't working. I can't do this. And because the chorus contains the same melodic material, guess what? We've just heard the same thing sung many times over the course of 3 minutes. It's probably gonna get stuck in your head. So what about this melody? What about the music we're hearing itself? Is there something interesting about the melody, aside from the structure of the song? Yes! Thank you for asking. Here's a transcription of the pre-chorus and chorus in Calling You Out.
Hard to believe that you need me. Maybe I'll force you to leave me. Promise that love can be easy. I'm too scared to try. Picking a fight, but even I don't know why. Every time I swear the worst is over now. You just say one thing and I find a way to turn it around. I wanna be the one to love you, not calling you out.
Don't worry if you don't know how to read music. I'll make a video crash course on that at a later date. It's really not too tricky. All you have to know is that when notes go up on a page, they also get higher, and when they go lower on the page, they get lower. Also, if you have two notes that lie on the same line or on the same space, those are the same notes. You'll notice then, both audially and visually, that Charly Bliss really loved to linger on one pitch. They really like to also noodle around that pitch before then returning to it. What sort of implications does this have? Come with me to the piano. Don't worry, you're not seeing double. I'm the same person. I'm going to use Rachmaninoff here as a good old example. I'm going to play the very opening melody to his third piano concerto. And I'll stop it right there. I'm going to play it a second time and I want you literally to sing along with me. I'll even do it with you. I have an atrocious voice. Re, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, si, do. Okay, where does that last note, that last do sharp or C sharp want to go? If you were singing it, I'm almost certain that you would naturally have sung this note. So as a full phrase. Re, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, mi, re, do, si, do, re. Again, we don't have time in this video to talk about nature versus nurture, but our brains are hardwired, melodically speaking, for either one of those or a combination of those reasons. Every melody that you hear has moments of tension and moments of resolution. And when our brain hears moments of tension, it expects the moment of resolution. Not only does it expect the moment of resolution, very often the brain naturally, intuitively knows how the resolution will happen. That's another form of pattern recognition. Whenever we're listening to a melody, we're subconsciously anticipating where we want it to go. And when we successfully anticipate the direction that the melody is moving in, we get that hit of dopamine. Let's take another listen at what Charly Bliss do. The pre-chorus moves generally in a downward direction.
Hard to believe that you need me. Maybe I'll force you to leave me. Promise that love can be easy. I'm too scared to try. Picking a fight, but even
Then something happens in the pre-chorus which literally catapults us into the chorus itself.
then I don't know why.
Charly Bliss is literally telegraphing to our brain, here, expect something huge and hard-hitting up ahead. And that's exactly what they deliver to us in the chorus. Charly Bliss here craft a chorus that expertly telegraphs to the listener what to expect, making us in turn crave it, and then giving us exactly what we want. It's as infectious as sour Skittles, or chocolate, or Milk Duds, if you're into that sort of thing. There's also the added bonus that because the melody itself features such a preponderance of the same notes, that it becomes very easy to naturally memorize as you listen to it, and thus, it stays with you. I also want to talk a little bit more on the fact that Charly Bliss loved to repeat the same note in the melody. When melodic stagnation occurs in music, that is, when the same note is played over and over in the melody, the brain starts to naturally long for a change. Obviously, you can't listen to the same note played over and over again unless you're slightly masochistic. Charly Bliss utilizes this aspect of psychology in this chorus section, where they'll linger on a note for just long enough that we're desiring of a new one, and they'll give us that new one. Although it will then inevitably return to that same repeated note, starting the process over again. You'll notice that Rachmaninoff does something very similar, or should I say Charly Bliss does something similar to Rachmaninoff, who in turn did similar things to all of the hundreds of composers that preceded him. In each one of these examples, both composers, the band Charly Bliss and Sergei Rachmaninoff, noodle around the same pitch. The excerpt that I played from the Rachmaninoff concerto starts and ends on a re, and Charly Bliss in their chorus always returns to a la. In both examples, the melody doesn't stretch, bend, twist itself very far away from that starting note, and the more each melody noodles around that starting pitch, the more our brains desire to hear it again. In summary, Charly Bliss melds together this conglomeration of both subversion and giving the listener exactly what they expect. Structurally, they subvert the typical verse-chorus nature of pop songs, instead almost exclusively continually ramping up emotional tension via repetitions of the chorus material itself. Melodically, on the other side of the coin, Charly Bliss stick to a relatively small subset of notes and uses repetition of these notes to build anticipation and expectation of what will continue, which is, of course, ultimately how the melody does continue. These aspects culminate, at least for me, in what is the catchiest song I've heard all year. If you haven't, I hope you'll give this band a listen. They're truly one of the most remarkable musical acts to come out in recent memory, if I'm to sound a little bit highfalutin. All right, to the kitchen. I have dried shallots to attend to.